It's an open secret that the rich in any country have numerous tools to save taxes. But how rampant is tax evasion in India? A new research by Professor Ram Singh sheds light on this problem. Dr. Singh is the director of Delhi School of Economics and also a member of RBI's MPC. Dr. Singh, who are these ultra-wealthy Indians that are underreporting their incomes? What's their profession and what's their average wealth?
Gulshan ji, as per my study, top 20% of Indians underreport their income, which is to say that the income that appears in income tax accounts is less than what we expect by way of their capital income and labor income. Another way of looking at this problem, this issue, is that if we compare average national income with average wealth, then income wealth ratio for top 20% of Indians turns out to be less than national average. As to the issue of tax evasion, we should make a distinction between tax evasion versus tax avoidance. The group in wealth groups that seem to be evading tax, seem to be avoiding tax, are different. The tax evader group seems to be people who are businesses. Their major source of income comes either from businesses or professional income, but also have agricultural land. There are also groups whose primary source of income comes from real estate. They also seem to underreport their income. Also, professionals whose transactions, whose receipts are cash dominated, such as doctors, lawyers, even some educational institutions and people who run coachings and tuitions, they also seem to be underreporting, avoiding tax. The groups who avoid tax avoidance means that you exploit loopholes in the tax regime to reduce your tax liability.
Dr. Singh is saying the extent of tax avoidance is very wide. So can you put a number to it, like how much does it cost the exchequer every year?
Well, I have not computed the exact numbers, but I can give you some sense of proportions using expected income as a reference point. For top 1% wealthy groups, their expected income, the difference between their reported income and expected income is of 1 to 3, which is to say that the income that appears in income tax accounts is about 1/3 of what we expect by way of their capital income. For 0.1%, the difference is even more. So what appears in income tax accounts is about 20%, 1/5 of what we expect by way of average income. And this difference goes up as we move up the wealth pyramid.
Your research also points out that in the bottom 10% of taxpayers, the reported income is double their wealth. What explains this anomaly, this extraordinary finding?
Well, in a sense, it's not extraordinary. In this entire analysis, it seems like wealth is the major driving force. If you think of people at the bottom of wealth and income pyramids, these are people who have very little by way of wealth. Their primary source of form of wealth is the house they own. And they also come from rural areas or small cities. The value of houses they own is small compared to income they earn. It is not that the income they earn is a lot. It's just that the value of their real estate or other assets they hold is small. As a result, income wealth ratio becomes big. Income seems large relative to their wealth. Opposite happens as we go up, as we move up the wealth pyramid. Well, wealth level go up exponentially, but income levels do not go up in a commensurate form.
Then safe to assume, Dr. Singh, that the burden of capex and government spending is falling on the fragile shoulders of India's poor, maybe through direct taxes or indirect taxes like the GST?
So what we can say with fair degree of certainty is that Indian rich are not overtaxed. Contrary to the narrative that gets built before every budget, every time union budget is presented, a narrative is built that Indian wealthy are overtaxed. That certainly is not the case because their tax liability as a ratio of their wealth is small. There are several ways of looking at tax, whether the tax is progressive or regressive. One way of looking at tax payments is whether the tax paid goes up with wealth level or not. What I find is that there's a direct relationship between tax paid and wealth level. As wealth level increase, tax payment also go up. So and other way of using the data from income tax department, top 1% of taxpayers pay about 40% of all the income tax that gets received. So it is not that the wealthy groups, rich groups are not paying tax. They are paying a significant amount of tax, but that amount pale in comparison to wealth they own. So it is with reference to wealth, if we compare tax payment with wealth holding, then things start to look very different.
So Dr. Singh,
this also, you can see this in media reports also. So every time budget is presented, just before that, so newspapers or even channels like yours will mention some names who happen to be highest income taxpayers. And these names who are shown to be highest income taxpayers, they of course come from well-off sections, but they invariably are celebrities, are movie stars or cricketers, some other celebrity. They are not wealthiest of Indians. So the fact that wealthiest of Indians are not among highest of income taxpayers indicates that there are issues there at that point.
Dr. Singh, is the government aware of this tax avoidance? What steps are being taken, like in your knowledge?
Oh yes, government is very much aware of this problem, this issue, Gulshanji. So if you recall, since 2014, Prime Minister has been talking about the issue of hoarding, wealth hoarding, tax evasion. So he has consistently talked about this issue since 2014. And some of the measures announced by government in the form of, let's say, Benami Property Act, where punishments were increased for people engaging in Benami transactions or hoarding wealth in form of Benami properties, or tax evasion on income. GST also has played an important role. Then Income Tax Department has made the income tax filing of returns more of taxpayers friendly. They also have increased the notices that are issued. The frequency of notices has increased. So combination of all these measures show that government is sensitive, very much mindful of the problem. And the outcome is what we would expect through these measures. So these measures have delivered intended results. What I find in my study that if we compare income and wealth reporting behavior before 2014 and after these measures, specifically after 2019, there is significant increase in reporting of wealth and more specifically reporting of income. This we can see in terms of tax revenue collection has increased significantly in absolute term, and more importantly, our tax GDP ratio has gone up significantly. It shows that the measures have been effective. My study is unit level analysis. So at unit level, I see that there has been significant increase in income reporting behavior. In compliance with income tax laws has increased significantly.
Professor Singh, your research also suggests that this underreporting of wealth and thus paying less taxes could be beneficial to the Indian economy. Now, some might find it amusing, others might find it disturbing. Do we have data to suggest this, that people who are not paying their taxes are investing the money back into the economy? Or will it lead to more black money in the economy?
So, Gulshan ji, we should keep 2-3 things in mind. First of all, my study does not claim that this is going to be the case. My study only points out to various possibilities, this being one of the possibilities. The research is divided on the issue of effect of income tax and corporate tax on investment behaviors. There have been contrary findings, and therefore, in the interest of completeness, I must mention this as a possibility. I don't recommend this as a measure. I also don't say that the tax evasion it can be overall good. I do not think so, but that possibility is there, cannot be ruled out unless we have evidence. So far, we do not have evidence in support of that tax evasion is good. It certainly doesn't seem to be good. It's just that I have mentioned this as a possibility. Now, on the question of whether they actually, so people who hold on to tax evaded income, whether they are actually investing it or not, it seems like some of this investment goes in real estate. Again, after RERA, things have improved there significantly. So real estate transactions are much cleaner now than they were before 2016. So, but some of the problems seem to be persisting there. To me, ideal situation would be that most Indians pay tax, what is expected of them, and those tax revenues are used for welfare transfers for poor. That is also happening. And this reminds me of another data point that is useful here. Because of increase in tax GDP ratio, welfare transfers to poor today are all-time high. So welfare transfers of general government are about 8% of GDP today. That's a really substantial amount. The other very good way of using tax revenue would be to invest in infrastructure. And there also that public investment in infrastructure is all-time high in absolute terms and also as a percentage of GDP. So overall, we seem to be moving in right direction. Problems are there, serious problems are there, but we are addressing the problems and seem to be moving in the right direction at appropriate pace on the fiscal front.